Okay, today we're doing arithmetic sequences. This word is arithmetic, but it can also be said arithmetic. Arithmetic is a noun, and arithmetic in this case is an adjective. It's describing what kind of sequences. So arithmetic sequences. Here's a sequence here. A sequence is a set of numbers in a set notation like this. So this is a sequence, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. An arithmetic sequence means we are adding the same number every time. So in this sequence, I'm adding 3 every time. Every time I'm adding 3 to get to the next number. This is called a finite sequence. It has an ending to it, so that's a finite sequence. Here's a sequence, -1/2, -1, -1.5, or I could also write this as -3/2, -2, ... This is an infinite sequence. It has no ending. It could just go on and on and on and on. And in this arithmetic sequence, I'm adding -1/2 every time. To go from -1, I start at -1/2. If I add -1/2, I get -1. If I add another -1/2, -1.5, so on. So when you're adding to get to the next number, you can be adding a negative number or a positive number. It could be a whole integer. It could be a fraction. Could be a decimal. So, but you're adding the same thing every time. Arithmetic means you're adding to get to the next number. Here are some definitions that we have for sequences. So, A with a subscript 1, A sub 1, that stands for your first term. In this sequence, A sub 1 is 3. In this sequence, A sub 1 is -1/2. A sub 1, that 1 means your first term. This n means the nth term, usually the last term. D stands for the common difference. The common difference is what you're adding every time. Like in this sequence, D is 3. I'm adding 3 every time. In this sequence, D is -1/2. I'm adding -1/2 every time. What you can do to find the common difference is take the second term minus the first term to get your common difference. Alright. So, let's actually look at 26C, number 8. The instructions say, describe the sequence, find the common difference. To describe the sequence, there's 4 things I'm going to write about this sequence. Okay, so number 1, I'm going to write, is it finite or infinite? Well, since this doesn't have a ... at the end, it's finite. It actually has an ending to it, so it's a finite sequence. So that's the first thing you'll say. Is it finite or infinite? Number 2, the next thing you're usually going to write about the sequence is the first term. What is, to describe a sequence, say what the first term is. In this case, my first term is -9. The way we call the first term is A sub 1. This would be A sub 1, A sub 2, A sub 3, A sub 4. We just use A to say which term it is. So A sub 1 is -9. That's my first term. The next thing that I'm going to usually say about the sequence is how many terms does it have? Since this is finite, it has 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. So this sequence has 4 terms. If it's an infinite sequence, it will have infinite number of terms. The fourth thing that we're going to say about the sequence is the common difference, which is D. To get the common difference, you can take the second term minus the first term. So in this case, we can say -9 minus a -8.67. Be careful of your negative signs. Minus a negative. That becomes plus. So -9 plus 8.67 turns out to be 0.33. So the common difference is 0.33. You're adding 0.33 every time to get the next number. That's how you're getting the next number. So these are 4 different things to describe that sequence. Okay, look at 26C, number 9. The instructions say, find the first 5 terms of the arithmetic sequence. The fact that they're telling us it's an arithmetic sequence means you will be adding the same number every time to get the next number. Arithmetic means you're adding. Because when you're doing arithmetic, you're adding or subtracting. So, arithmetic sequence, you're adding the same number every time to get the next number. This tells us that our first term is going to be -81. So we're wanting to do the first 5 terms. So use a set notation to describe your sequence. Our first term is negative 81. That tells us that right there. The common difference is 15.2, meaning we are adding 15.2 every time to get the next number. So we take our negative 81 and add 15.2 to get the next number. That is negative 65.8. Then add 15.2 again to get the next number. Negative 50.6. Adding 15.2 to that to get the next number. Negative 35.4. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. We need 5 terms. So add 15.2 again to get negative 20.2. So all I'm doing is adding 15.2 to each number to get the next one. And now that is the first 5 terms of that sequence. Okay, there's something else we can do with the arithmetic sequences is we can find a specific term of a sequence using this formula. So like looking at 26C13, we want to find the 10th term. Well, instead of writing out all 10 terms or even past 10 terms, we can go straight to a formula and find the 10th term if we know the first term and we know the common difference. So N, that means this S means specific term, and the N is going to be which term you're trying to find. So whatever term you're trying to find goes there for N, also goes there for N. So as long as you know the first term, you know the common difference, you can find any number of term in a sequence without writing out the whole sequence. So again, looking at 26C13, we want the 10th term, and we're given that the first term is negative 5 1/3, and we're given that the common difference is 1/3. Okay, so we're wanting to find the 10th term. So then, using this formula, a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times the common difference. Okay, I know that a sub 1 is negative 5 1/3 plus n. I'm trying to find the 10th term. So that 10 goes there in place of n, and then the common difference has told us that it's 1/3. Know that this d is being multiplied. Whatever term you're trying to find minus 1 times the common difference. Okay, I'm going to change this to improper fraction. So that would be a negative 16 over 3 plus 9 times 1/3. Multiplication's done first. At this point, you should already know order of operation. So that would be negative 16/3. I'm going to go ahead and leave this as a fraction instead of reducing 9/3, because that way I already have a common denominator. So I'm just going to leave it as 9/3. So then the 10th term would be negative 7/3. So you can find the 10th term instead of writing out the first term, then finding the second term, third term, fourth term, fifth term. You have a formula to go straight to the 10th term. Okay, looking at 26D number 14, find the 20th term with a sub 1 equals 20 and a sub 2 equals negative 10. Okay, well, we have a formula for finding the specific term. Here's our formula. The first term plus whatever term you're looking for minus 1 times the common difference. Okay, you have to know which term you're looking for. We're doing the 20th. You have to know the first term. We're told that. And you have to have the common difference. Well, we don't have the common difference, but we're given the first term and the second term. How do you find the common difference? By subtracting the second term, doing the second term minus the first term. So we can take our negative 10, watch your negative signs, negative 10 minus 20. So our common difference is negative 30. So just watch your signs. So now we can plug that into our formula. We want to know the 20th term. So take our first term, which is 20, plus the number of term we want, which is the 20th, minus 1 times the common difference we said was negative 30. Okay, so that's 20 plus 19 times negative 30. Do multiplication first. So I have the final answer, but let me go ahead and write out this step. 19 times negative 30 is negative 570. So the 20th term is negative 550. Just again, watch your signs.